Hi, David Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete. This is part 3 of a multi-part series. Today we're going to show the patio setup, compaction, adding the road base, and the pour. We're going to be doing a Belgium slate, seamless texture. In the previous video we showed this raised planter going in. Also, that's going to get a poured in place bullnose cap as well. We'll do that after the patio pour. Along this back wall, we're going to do a 10-inch gap between the wall and the new patio, and that'll act as a drainage. Also, it'll act as a nice border because the homeowner is going to put some decorative round rock in there, a little bit darker brown, because we're going with pebble from Davis, integral color mixed into the concrete. So the homeowner is going to add round rock around the whole perimeter of this pour. And this particular job is the entirety of all the flat work, front, back, and sides of the house, and it's all pretty much going in the same color, pebble, and stamped side yards, driveway, patio. The two porches are sand wash right now that we did in the previous video. Also, the cap, when we pour that in place, that'll be a sand wash. So basically everything above grade will be sand wash, and everything down low will be stamped. Here's some electrical going in. That's a 1-inch conduit because there's going to be a sauna back here in the corner. So it's going to be 220 going over there to heat that up really quickly. Little sauna room. So I just stepped that up into the planter area, and it'll tie into that and maneuver it wherever it needs to go. This wall, another reason I did this planter, because this wall is in pretty bad shape. So if that wall ever has to come down, it'll have that space to work with and remove it and put a new one in without damaging the patio. So there's a lot of good reasons to have that in there for future electrical, low voltage lighting, many things you can do when you have that space there. So I am running another conduit from the existing outlet on the back of the house straight across as well. Could be a barbecue island, things of that nature. This ground is really loose, and it's been disturbed quite a bit since I've gotten here, because we had 2 layers of concrete that we removed in the first video. And what they did was the first layer was down low enough, then they added some loose dirt, and then they poured another layer over that, which brought them over the vents. So I had to drop it all down. Here we are shooting elevations. I want to make sure that I have a nice cross slope from the house to the new drainage culvert that I'm creating. Now I'm snapping some lines along the porch edge. Yeah, since this dirt was moved around so much, I want to pre-compact it. There's the 3M spray-on adhesive. I'm going to use that for the expansion foam around the planter area, because it is new and there may be settling, and if there is, it'll settle differently than the slab, so I need a little space between the 2 new pours. And this styrofoam will do the trick. And I'm gluing that right to the height of the new slab, and that allows for the slope, and it's a good guide to come off of. So we don't have a lot of slope here. I'm doing really minimal, and it's tough to do minimal when you're doing stamped concrete, because if you don't stamp it at the right time, you could actually create holes in the concrete where the water would accumulate, wouldn't drain off. So stamping it at the right time is going to be crucial, because I have minimal slope. I only have probably 1% cross slope here. So we've compacted the native. We ran that about 3 or 4 times. And then we'll add base on top of that. This is crushed concrete recycled base. So like I was saying before in one of my other videos, if I had a crusher plant set up at this household, maybe in the front, I could have put all the old concrete there, crushed it, brought it back in. But I didn't have that tool, so I imported it. Now, the thing about color concrete is that, especially integral, is between different loads, it could cure out a different color potentially. There's always that risk when you're pouring at days apart. So the way I staged everything here is each section of the house will be its own load. So even if it did dry different colors from the side yards of the patio, the driveway to the front courtyard, it's not going to be that noticeable because they're not right next to each other. It's a different portion of the yard. And this is 10 yards. I got 750 or 60 square feet here, maybe a little bit more. So I had to get this grade right on the money to make sure I'd make it with one load. So I didn't want to get a cleanup. Here's the waterproofing that I'm using on the inside of this raised planter. And I'm just going to put it on there with a sponge float. That way when they start watering this, they get the vegetable garden going or whatever it is, that water is not going to come through the concrete and discolor it or get water damage. Here's the reinforcement that we'll be using here. We're going to be using Owens Corning pink bar, 3/8 inch diameter on about 18-inch centers, both directions. Also, I will be adding some fiber mesh upon the concrete truck's arrival. Using the Makita auto tire. And that was the first time he'd ever used that gun, the Makita gun, tying rebar. And he was able to do it really easily. Wasn't really a long learning curve. You just put it there, pull the trigger, you're done. If you give someone, say, some wire pliers and some tie wire, and it was their first time, you wouldn't get much done. They wouldn't get much done initially. But with the rebar tire, anyone can use it, in other words. There it is, wood grain finish on that raised planter. They had a raised wood planter before. It was actual real wood. And, it wasn't holding up very well, so we changed it to the wood look, but concrete. So it'll be a lot longer lasting. Here's pour time. Concrete's arrived. I may have already put the fiber in there at this point. There's the water, the primer that comes out first through the hose to lubricate it for the concrete so it doesn't jam up on you. Just capture that water. Rather than spread it around, it makes a mess. Thins that out, discolors it. So we capture the water and get rid of it. then start laying it down. I have a fifth wheel hook, which I use to pull the reinforcement up with as we go out here. Using a wood bull float 4-footer on the way out, and there's no room to work the concrete. I mean, this first laydown is pretty much our last laydown, besides when we get out there on knee boards. It's not like you can walk around this whole thing nonchalantly and have all the space in the world to run a bunch of pull tools. You gotta lay it down really nicely the first time, and then hopefully it's good enough so when you get out there on the boards you don't have to fight it all the way through. But if you look at the house there, you can see the old level of the concrete, about 2 inches, 3 inches higher, and that put them over the seal of the house, because that's a raised foundation, that house. So they had a lot of rot, stucco failure going on. And we did make it with 10 yards on this pour, so it worked out really nicely. No cold joints, no chance of getting a mismatched color loads. With those little landings outside each slider door, those are prone to crack off of each corner of those, so we're going to go ahead and wet join it the day of the pour. Usually I like to saw cut everything, but this is some critical spots we're going to have to hit just to get us through the night. And then I can come back the next day, do my saw cuts, and that's what I'll do. I'll add some more cuts to these. So we've got double joints off of each corner of the porches or landings, and then I'm going to add cuts in between every landing, and we'll run another cut the long way. So we'll have about 6-foot squares when it's all said and done. We're going to go over this thing twice off of the knee boards. They're using plywood boards that they kind of modified and rigged up some handles on them. The reason they're going with the plywood because they're bigger, and you can get out on it a little bit earlier. That's kind of what you got to do when you get in these tight areas. You got to get out on it early to get your first lay down. Then on your next pass, they're going to probably switch up to your sliders, and then just slide on down with some trowels. And a couple other crack points right here off of the raised planter that we had to join out. Now we're starting the stamping procedure in the back there. We're doing a liquid release, so this is just a single color stamp. You could use an antique release at this point, two-tone it if you wanted to, but you're going to get somewhat of that modeling two-tone effect even though it is a single color, just because of the way the mats on the, hit the concrete and the way the light reflects off of the lows and high areas of it, which you'll see at the end. This concrete, within a couple weeks this time of year, it'll be a lot lighter than this. You can see just to the right of the screen the other side yard report, and that's only about 5 days old, and see how much lighter that is. That's what this is going to get down to, or even the top of the raised planter, how much lighter that is. And it starts this color, so it tones down quite a bit. This is Belgian slate. What I have is 2 Belgian slates, and I have a bluestone mixed into it. Nice little combination. Notice the shade there along the wall and that concrete, so it's going to be a lot softer there. So that's why we ran the mats the long ways and kept working towards the wall to give that as much time as possible to dry out and catch up. That we have a nice uniform stamp all the way through. Now if we got out here early with these mats, just the weight of your footprints will go through the mats and leave puddling in the concrete. So you don't really want to get out there early with these mats. It's all about timing. You have to have good timing with concrete to do these right. Here's the next day. We're snapping out some lines. I'm using some blue chalk because it comes off really easy. If you go with red and you don't cut exactly on that red line, it's nearly impossible to get off. Blue comes off really easily though. Doing the saw cutting, I put my DeWalt cordless vacuum on a roller, and that just follows me around. I'm running the Medusa by Skill with a Makita diamond blade. You notice how there's no dust being left or any in the air from the cut, and I'm going an inch deep. A real clean operation with this setup. So if you're like interior and you had this setup, you'd be fine. Now, when we did the concrete removal, which went all the way against this block wall, and they, like I said, they had poured two different pours on top of each other. Well, one of the pours, I guess apparently at one point or another, they broke out some concrete, and when they broke that concrete out, they knocked holes in the bottom of this wall, and then they poured the new concrete slab into the holes of the wall. So it wasn't easy getting the concrete out of the holes in the wall that was connected to the patio without knocking the wall down, but we got it out, and so we had to patch it up to stabilize the wall. Now if you if it didn't have those columns and you knocked holes in all the bottom blocks and you got a good stiff wind, the whole wall could come tumbling over on you. This is hollow core too, and it's a 4-inch, but it's got so many vines on the back of it, it's kind of supporting the wall by itself. Anyway, that about wraps up this part. Stay tuned for the next one because she's a real beauty. Have a good one. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Hit the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when the next upload hits. Have a good one.